Hey guys, I wanted to get on here to do a little supplemental lesson here on the lottery. You know we have done this in class, but it was brought up by Miss Crabtree in the proximity classes, so I wanted to go back over the answers and look at some important stuff that shows up in the short story. So, we start off in the lottery, as you know, it's a really nice day and everyone's gathered around the town square, and then the ending of it is pretty dark. So the main things that we're looking for in this story as we're reading are the themes and the symbols and the irony and the tone, right? So, themes. When we're thinking about the themes of this short story, one of them is dangers of blindly following traditions. Okay, so what that means is when these people, for example, are getting ready to kill Tessie. You remember here, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, right here, down at the bottom, they say here, all right, folks, let's finish quickly. And then Miss Dunbar gave some for her kids, and she will catch up with them. The children had stones already. And then she was moved to the center of the cleared space by now. She held her hands out desperately as the villagers moved in on her. It isn't fair, she said. A stone hit her on the side of the head. Old man Warner was saying, come on, everyone. Steve Adams was in front of the crowd of villagers with Mrs. Graves beside him. So this is a good example of the theme of blindly following traditions. So these people are performing this really dark ritual on Tessie because she was chosen for the lottery and nobody questions it. Which leads us to the second major theme in the short story, which is randomness of persecution. Okay, and what that means is that the person who is being persecuted, it's not someone that's actually chosen by someone on purpose. It's random, right? Completely random. The victim here, and in our case, our victim is Tessie. She did not ask to be persecuted. She was chosen at random through the lottery. Now, some might say that her being chosen is fair because it is in the lottery and, she had as fair a chance as everyone else. But it goes a little bit deeper than just that surface level, this is a lottery, she was chosen. It represents what happens today. To bring in some present day parallels like prejudices based on people's sex or their race, their religion, their sexual orientation, things like that. These are not things that are anybody's fault. These are things in which people are born with, right? And Tessie has done nothing wrong, right? She didn't do anything wrong. She's no indiscretions. She didn't break the law. But it does just show how extreme, what extremes that societies can go to persecute the innocent for some weird, absurd, stupid reason. So when you're thinking about the themes, make sure that you are looking more than the surface level of what's going on, because there's always some lesson behind it. And the major lesson that Shirley Jackson here is trying to make is that people will do anything blindly if it's tradition, right? The next thing to think about are these symbols, all right? So when thinking about the symbols, the first symbol that we have in this short story is the black box. Okay, I want you to think about why the black box is a symbol. All right, see, carrying that wooden black box. He set the black box down on it. Villagers kept their distance, leaving a space between them and the stool. And when Mr. Summers said, some of you fellas want to give me a hand, there was a hesitation before somebody came forward, right? And then Shirley Jackson goes on to tell us the history of the black box here, right? So she says that the original paraphernalia or the original box had been lost long ago, and there was a story that the present box had been made with some pieces of the old box, and that Mr. Summers began talking again about a new box, but every year the subject was allowed to fade without anything being done. It grew shabbier by the year, and by now it was no longer completely black, but splintered, and in some places faded or stained. Okay, so it was important that Shirley Jackson went in and told us the history of this black box, because what this black box represents or symbolizes is tradition. The tradition of the lottery, but also of the villagers' illogical loyalty to it. So the example there is that here, nothing's being done about it, even though it's growing shabbier every year. Nothing's being done about it. And the reason why is because they're reluctant or unwilling to replace it because of what it symbolizes, because of that tradition that it symbolizes. Okay, and then the next piece of symbolism is the lottery itself. Okay, so, and this also kind of plays into the themes. So in the lottery in itself, the story in itself, so the lottery, what it's going to do is symbolize all of these actions, okay, actions and behaviors and ideas that are passed down. Okay, it represents these actions and behaviors and these ideas that are passed down over generations, and they're accepted, and people follow them unquestioningly, no matter how illogical or bizarre or cruel they are. The lottery represents anything that people follow without questioning it. And as you can see, this wraps up into or spills into the themes of tradition, because that's what essentially this whole short story is about, is people following tradition, right? And that leads to the irony of the story, right? We got quite an ironic little story here. Do you remember back in class when we talked about irony? Think about it. What type of irony is this short story giving us? Situational irony. Situational irony. Do you remember the difference between situational irony and the other ironies? Well, situational irony here means something happened that we didn't expect. Okay? So, at the beginning of the story, let's go back to the beginning of the story. So, at the beginning of the story, here we have these villagers gathering on a square. It's gorgeous, as you can see, right? It's the morning, clear and sunny, fresh warmth of a summer day. They began gathering in the square where the lottery took place. Children assemble, and there's a feeling of liberty. Let's see. Soon the men began to gather, talking about planting, rain, tractors, and taxes. So we get this opening of the story that's really, really positive. And so we don't expect anything really bad to happen, but there are hints. And the first hint comes from the children. See, Bobby Martin already stuffed his pockets full of stones. And the other boys followed his example, selecting the smoothest, roundest stones. Why? Why choose the smoothest, roundest stones? Why is this kid stuffing his pockets full of stones? Well, could be a multitude of reasons. I mean, they're children, but still. That's the first hint that we get, because it's a little odd, right? And the second hint that we get is right here. Excuse me. Where the men smiled rather than laughed. Okay, so we are meant to to believe that everything is just so hunky-dory and happy and yay, right? Because it's a nice day out, but they're smiling rather than laughing, okay? So not necessarily anything super bad feeling going on, but there is a shift in the tone there because the men, they're smiling instead of laughing. And, you know, if we think everyone was so jovial, they would be laughing, right? The children are laughing, but the men are not, okay? And then we get the next hint by these people here with the box. So we're looking at Mr. Summers saying the villagers kept their distance when Mr. Summers asked them, hey, anybody want to come help me with the box? And there was a hesitation before the two men came forward and helped hold the stool steady. So again, another shift in tone. We're starting to get a little bit more nervous, a little bit darker here, because for some reason, nobody wants to touch the box. It's like they're scared of it, right? And then Shirley Jackson goes on to give us a hint when the lottery begins. All right, so it goes into great detail here about the lottery, what's going on, how they start it. But then when the lottery starts, you see here a sudden hush fell on the crowd as he cleared his throat and said, all ready, heads of families first, blah, blah, blah. And he said, people have done this so many times, of course, they only half listened to the directions. Most of them were quiet, wetting their lips, not looking around. So they're nervous, right? Very, very nervous. So one man is called here, and Mr. Summers says, hi, Joe, and they grin at one another humorlessly and nervously. Oh, why? Are they looking at each other like they're so nervous? Lotteries equal money, right? At least that's what we're led to believe in our modern day society, but for some reason, they're nervous. And no humor. Nobody's smiling or laughing. So we get another little hint that this lottery is not exactly what we expect it to be. And then the author goes on to tell us, or give us another hint with Tessie's reaction, right? So if you remember with Tessie, she was not happy with their names getting chosen. So basically, you remember the heads of household, which are the men of the family, get to draw first, and it was the Hutchinson family who had the black dot on their paper. And then Tessie, instead of being excited because, we think of lottery equaling money, but instead, she's here, as you can see, saying, you didn't give enough time. It wasn't fair. Okay, and everyone's like, come on, be a good sport. You took the same chance that we all did. And she kept saying that it wasn't fair. So that also gives us a hint that something is not right with this lottery. You see here again, she says, this isn't fair. It wasn't fair. You didn't give him a fair chance. Okay, and then after that family was chosen, they have to narrow it down even more to one, which we thought was kind of weird too, because you would think, one person would draw on the lottery and that would be the end of it. But obviously that's not the case here. And so that family draws, and then it's Tessie that gets chosen. Okay, Tessie gets chosen, and that's it. We end the story with her getting killed. She gets stoned to death. Dun, 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 blah, blah. She's gone. Even her little son threw a rock at her and stoned her, part of stoning her to death. And it's very ironic because we did not expect Tessie to die. And it's a very cruel, dark, just scary way for someone to die. So that represents the situational irony that Shirley Jackson gives us in this story, and essentially leading us back to the theme. The main idea, the lesson that we're supposed to learn is that this random persecution here, yeah, like Tessie said, it's not fair. It isn't right. And that we as a society can break from tradition. Just because it's tradition, it doesn't mean that we have to keep it around, you know. We don't have to follow everything that tradition tells us to. We can make our own histories. We can change traditions if it doesn't fit with our ideals now. But there are still some people that want to cling to that tradition so desperately. And the one person in this story, actually, who wants to cling to tradition so badly is Old Man Warner. So we go back to Old Man Warner real quick. You know, here, it's calling them a pack of crazy fools. Then they're wanting to go back to living in caves. And then he goes on to say that lottery in June, corn be heavy soon. The first thing you know, I'll be eating stewed chickweed and acorns. There's always been a lottery. Bad enough to see young Joe Summers up there joking with everybody. So Old Man Warner, he's so superstitious and stuck in tradition that he believes that if they don't have a lottery, that they're not going to have a harvest and that they'll starve. Right? So you see how this is a good example of blindly following this tradition that's very illogical, makes no sense, but some people have to cling to that so desperately. All right. So that covers the story, just going over the story a little bit, talking about the themes and the hints and stuff like that. So let's look at the questions. All right. We're going to do 1 through 5, and then you guys can cover the rest, the discussion questions and things like that to send to me. All right, so question 1. The description of the lottery in paragraph 1 is meant to make the reader feel. What do you think? If you chose B, you would be correct. That the lottery is a pleasant tradition. Again, go back to paragraph 1 and the description in paragraph 1. Let's hop our way to it. It says the morning of June 27th was clear and sunny with the fresh warmth of a full summer day, and the flowers were blossoming profusely and the grass was richly green. The people of the village began to gather in the square, and there were so many people, blah, 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 blah. You get it. We're meant to think that this lottery is just pleasant, beautiful, lovely, nice tradition. We're feeling positive. And now that leads us to number 2. So which of the following describes a theme of the text? If you chose A, you would be correct. Even if something is cruel, people have the tendency to follow the crowd and participate. And that is what I was talking about with the hint about, or with the theme of the extreme randomness of persecution, blindly following traditions. Even if something is cruel, people still have a tendency to follow the crowd and participate in that because that's what they feel they're expected to do, and that's what society expects them to do. Not a good thing. However, in certain situations like this, it's cruel and evil, and people should not be following that tradition. Number 3, part A. What purpose does Old Man Warner's character best serve in the story? So what was his purpose for his part in the story? His part was very small, but he played a big role. Okay? If you answered D, you would be correct. He represents the fear of change and that desire to follow traditions. So that goes back to number 2. You know, people have that tendency to follow the crowd and participate, and a lot of that is because they're afraid of change. They're afraid to follow any other path because this is all they know, and change to them is scary, and they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen when things change so much, so they cling to old traditions desperately because of that fear of things being out of their normal comfort zone. Okay, so that leads us to number 4, part B. Which detail from the text best supports the answer to part A? So what quote out of there, what detail best supports the fear of change and desire to follow traditions? If you chose C, you would be correct. There's always been a lottery, he added petulantly. Bad enough to see young Joe Summers up there joking with everybody, from paragraph 32. He is angry that Joe Summers isn't taking it seriously. And that does represent Old Man Warner's fear of change and how he wants people to follow tradition to the T. You have to follow it exactly the way it used to be, or it's not valid anymore, and it's not a good thing anymore. And then number 5. How does the detail, and someone gave little Davy Hutchinson a few pebbles, contribute to the text? So that detail, giving the pebble to Tessie's youngest child, Davy. So how does that contribute to the text? What does it add to the text? If you chose D, that it stresses everyone participates in the lottery, even Mrs. Hutchinson's son, then you're correct. Okay? That, yes, it does. It stresses that everybody has to participate. If one person doesn't participate, that's essentially anarchy, right? If one person doesn't participate, then that means somebody else won't participate. And it's this domino effect of people not wanting to be a part of that anymore. And then that's how uprisings start. And that's how these traditions will fall apart. And so they force even the little kids to participate. They'll even stone a child if their name or if they got chosen. So, sorry, that's a little dark right there at the end. Okay, so the rest, you've got some short answer questions that you need to go in and answer yourself. So number 6 there is asking, how does the reader's point of view change over the story, and what moments developed that change? We talked about in this video how Shirley Jackson gives us hints throughout the story and how that changes our point of view of the story. So what you'll do is talk about that. How does the reader's point of view change about the lottery, and use details from the story to support your answer. And your discussion questions, same concept. You're going to go in, you need to use the evidence from the text, cite examples to support what you say. And then you will get that turned in to me. Again, you can text me, you can email me, or send me your stuff on Remind, whatever works best for you. If you are still struggling with this story, I suggest you go to this website. Oops, wait. I lied to you. I suggest you do go to this website, though. It's called www.shmoop.com. Okay. I've mentioned this in class, but I'm going to tell y'all guys again. This is a great, great website. So you're going to go to shmoop.com. I'm trying to figure out my iPad here. Study guides / literature / lottery. Shirley. No, Shirley needs to be lowercase. Thank you. Shirley Jackson / analysis. / analysis. Oh my God. Sorry. Jackson / analysis. Okay. This is a really, really, really good website, you guys. I promise you I would not steer you wrong. Use this website to go watch the video, read over things like the tone and things like that. So let me open it up. I'll show you. So you can go open that website. It'll take you to the Shmoop website, to the lottery analysis. You talk about tone, genre, what's up with the title, what's up with the ending, the setting, the symbolism, the imagery, the allegory, writing style, narrator point of view. You can talk about the themes. It gives you a summary. There are flashcards. There are quotes. There's all kinds of things on here that are going to be a really, really good help for you. So that's that. I hope that this helps a little bit with understanding the story a little bit more. If you need any help, please let me know. Email me, text me, whatever you need to do. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.